somebody to throw some fish in my
I,
mouth.
I think that's very true, man. It's like Rod and I were just watching that intro, and every picture that Rod's in there, it's like,
and my mouth's wide open. It's like I'm a dolphin waiting for somebody to throw a fish at me.
Oh my gosh, man! Well, you can.
That was a fun weekend.
Yeah, it was.
Well, you can already tell we're having a good time. It is Thursday, time for another episode of the RoadFS CRM podcast. And of course, we are now RoadFS Detail Bookie.
We got to come up with it's like the RoadFS podcast sponsored by Detail Bookie, or the other way around.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out something. So, but yes, we are having too much fun, too much work.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been nonstop since January 3rd, since we signed the paperwork for bringing Detail Bookie on into the RoadFS family, and the developers have been going crazy. The conversations have been crazy.
We've already done 2 updates to Detail Bookie. So again, for those of you that aren't part of the 4,000 people that saw the post of us squashing the rumors, Detail Bookie is not going out of business. We are not integrating it in with RoadFS. We are not making massive changes. And we did not ever will sell our customer list. So if you get a call from any company saying that we sold them our customer list, they are completely full of it. And that's ridiculous. So anyway, we're alive and well, and we are with Brian Gitzen, who in that intro you saw a lot of pictures of Brian.
Summer breeze. Look at that. I'm like, dude, I want summer so bad. I put it in there twice.
That summer breeze. So it is. I got to actually spend a week with Brian in Jacksonville, Florida, and not only did I get to spend a week with Brian, his wife was there, and I got to go to meet his mother and his grandparents.
Whoa, dude, you're part of the family.
I know, man. Yep. It was like, you want to talk about somebody that just like opened it up and was like, "Hey, come on in, join the family." So, how you doing, Brian?
Good. Tired, busy. You know, all the fun things of owning a business. So.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're taking on more. I noticed the hat you're wearing. You've gone from just Summer Breeze coating and detailing to now Summer Breeze coating, detailing, PPF, personal hygiene, dinner on the town. You do everything.
Yeah, we Joel gave me a call wanting to know if I did tint and PPF, got me hooked up with a couple different products from A-Peaks, things like that, and we started installing, and it's just kind of moved from there. We'll be in Michigan the 19th through the 21st up at the PPF training with A-Peaks USA. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Which includes our friends over at IGL, Mike Carlin, and Dustin Jackson.
That's a SEMA Garage event, right?
Yep, the SEMA Garage event where they're doing the 3 different businesses they own and doing them all right then and there.
Yeah, we were trying to make that work, but it was not
too many schedule conflicts, and
scheduled.
So one of the things that I know about you, Brian, is that just being there for a week is if you notice that intro, Brian works his ass off. I'm not kidding you. I mean, you were there like first person there, last person to leave. And it was literally, I thought I had died and I had taken my place in hell. It was so hot. And and just going, man, it was a lot of work. We had a lot of different things we covered that weekend. But so how much of that stuff that we were doing do you do on a regular basis, like as far as boats and gel coat and all that?
Well, funny you should say that. We're actually going to set up for the boat show convention down here for 3 days in Savannah. We actually sponsored it. We have 2 booths going in. But honestly, from the gel coat repair that we did at Rashid's shop, I've done probably 5 of them, and I have 2 more coming up this month. So I'm taking that training and running with it. I don't advertise it, but when I see it on a boat that we're working on, things like that, I mention it, and we kind of roll it in. We're rolling it in small, starting small. We're not going big like Rashid, replacing whole holes and deck and all that. Small little scratches, things like that.
Yeah. So and that's one of those things that was it was unique training in the sense that it was our training on polishing was literally on a boat. It was on so that was crazy good. We're going to be again in Jacksonville just to tie off at the end of March, there's a detail summit at Rashid's shop in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm hoping that the weather is more of a human thing as opposed to a Demogorgon / dragon weather. Because
We'll
joke, guys,
suppress the demons in the back for you. No worries, we got
we
you.
were taking like 2 and 3 changes of clothing to the training because we were sweating so bad that by afternoon you had to change your clothes. It was insane. So that's why we're all so tight now, is because a lot of times we just switched clothes right there in the shop, and
I'm planning to bring the crew down that Saturday.
Nice.
We have a full week that week. But I'm planning on coming down on Saturday, spending time with y'all and Rashid Saturday and Sunday. If y'all are going to be there still Sunday,
Yeah,
so
we're going to be there.
Yeah, we're going to be there the full time. So the unique thing about these summits is, and especially the one in Jacksonville, is you get a taste of everything. And they're really, really informative, and they're unbelievably inexpensive to go to.
Which is cool because on this one we have Giancarlo from RoadFS coming. We have Rashid Baker. We have Angel Wax. We have Chris Metcalf from Flex. We have us from RoadFS. We have Leather Repair Company and Detail Bookie.
We got Leather Repair Company, yes. And that's the other thing is we were able to do, the word Leather Repair Company, it also encompasses vinyl. All different types of fabrics and pieces that you'll be in your interior. And so that was a really good thing too. And we did some good repairs. Even though the weather was insane, we did some really good repairs on some vinyl. Everybody signed a little thing that Rashid's got hanging on his wall now, which is really cool.
So I have a question, right? And this is kind of the theme of today's podcast. You have built your business to a point where you're offering multiple services. You have a team. So how are you managing juggling so many things? Because I think a lot of guys, when they start considering, how do I pivot? How do I expand? They kind of get overwhelmed, right? There's, oh man, I could do this, I could do that. How are you managing the Demogorgon and demons of offering so many different services to your clients?
So at the beginning, it was rough. 2 or 3 years ago, it was rough to kind of let my hands go of doing everything. And it's higher when you know you're not good at something, you hire somebody that's good at that, and you move from there, and you just gradually get through it. So I'm very bad with books. I'm very bad with putting clients into systems, like everything like that. So we have Amber. Amber does all that.
Yep.
Super bad at posting to social media. I hired somebody for that does all of our video and everything. And then even with the guys, like our guys, to train them, we start them at the bottom and we move them up. So that way they're mastering one thing before we move them to the next thing. So they're not getting overwhelmed. That's the one thing I've learned over the last 2 or 3 years is when I learn something, I have to be dedicated to that part of the craft for X amount of time so I can perfect it and get it down to where I'm proficient at it. And I can actually teach somebody something. I can't go in and go, we're going to detail this car, then we're going to PPF it, and then we're going to tint it, because at the end of the day, if they don't understand, or if I don't understand it, they're never going to understand it. So
and I think that's good to also find out who's good at what, right? I mean, everybody can't be good at everything, right? I obviously am not a master of hair care, but there's other things that I'm really good at, and the same thing is true
non-hair care.
Jody and I. So, for instance, when we've been very, very lucky. I say this all the time, and I absolutely am grateful to how lucky we are to get exposed to so many things in the auto recon industry. But we've taken, I think, I've been involved in at least 4 PPF trainings from APEX now. Jody's been involved in one of them,
APEX and one competitor.
And right now, I would have to say that if we had a shop, Jody would not be allowed to touch PPF or a knife.
I can unload the box and hand it to you, but applying it, forget it.
Nope. No,
baby steps.
Everybody is not good at everything. Yeah,
absolutely.
This is Joel, man. Never detailed, never will. Ask me how to build a successful company. He can do that. And I think that's the key. Is it's reflective. It's looking back at yourself and saying, like you did, I'm not good at X. Because I think a lot of times we think as a business owner, I have to be good at everything. No, you don't. You have to be good at delegating or passing off the stuff you don't know how to do to somebody who knows how to do it better.
That's exactly right. And honestly, I can help everybody with anything in the business, but I know where my strengths are. My strengths are being active with the customers and doing my job, which is detailing PPF. I'm putting things into systems, telling my guys, hey, you got to be to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not good at that because I'm like, just come in whenever. We'll just get it done. Like I'm very easygoing until things happen. And then we have to restructure. Hey, did we do something wrong here? Where do we go wrong with it? Right. Or if we did something good, where do we go right with it? So we can continue doing that, because repetition breeds perfection. So
yeah, I think one of the things that we don't do well as business owners is we don't take time to recognize excellence and recognize when people did a good job. But it's very easy for us to recognize when
failure
and everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and you're like, oh man, dude. So how are you? What have you done to manage the chaos, especially when you're dealing with egos? You're dealing with, an upset customer. How do you manage those scenarios?
I mean, dealing with an upset customer is always, I've always taken the blame from my guys or off of my guys to me. Listen, at the end of the day, we all mess up. We're all human. Something's going to happen. It doesn't matter what it is. I take the blame of it. Hey, listen, it was my fault. Apparently, I didn't do a training right. I didn't explain it well enough. Something, either the customer's expectations or the guys, what they're doing wasn't explained somewhere through there. So it's definitely my fault. So I take the brunt of most of that from the customers, or even inside of our nucleus with us. Like if something goes wrong, I used to be one that would just flip out, be like, yeah, this is just dumb. Why are we doing this? It doesn't make sense. I have to step back and realize that doing that only breeds more morale problems inside the shop.
Yeah.
So it just makes people want to walk on eggshells. And I would rather you be honest. Hey, I threw a polisher across the room because I got pissed off at it. It wasn't working like I wanted it to. Cool. We'll buy a new polisher. Let's try not to do that again. So, I mean, that's just, it happened the other day.
Yeah.
Well, I was the employee.
Yeah. I think the key to that is, again, there's a fine line between having a constructive debate or constructive conversation with somebody and saying, hey, let's look at what happened. Okay. We burned through the paint, right? That's going to happen, but let's talk about it. Not in a damn, you suck so bad. More of a, okay, at least you know how to do that now. So let's move on from that and let's explain, this is how we can prevent it. Why did that happen? Oh, I didn't check the paint thickness before I started. I didn't realize it was a repaint. I didn't, whatever. But that we in the software world, we call that a post-mortem. So when a project is done, you reflect on the good and the bad. And you look at it and you say, hey, this one worked really well. We finished before we were supposed to. We did all that. Sometimes it's the opposite. And you say, okay, so that didn't work. We got to figure out what happened. Well, this is what happened. Okay, next time, let's not do that and let's move on. So we've been there a million times, and I think you just have to continuously understand there's going to be problems. No business is going to run smooth all the time. I've made mistakes, and you, like you said, you have to own up to them. I've made mistakes and said stuff that have actually hurt people, and I have to own up to that. And I have to go say, hey, look, I'm sorry. It wasn't intended to hurt you. I know it did. That's all you can do sometimes. You can own up to your mistakes and say, I did it. What else can we do? What can we do to move on beyond this?
Yeah, I think go ahead, Brian, and then I
was going to say it's ever evolving too. No situation is ever the exact same. So it's always a different situation where you have to learn as a business owner to control your emotions, because nobody's invested as much as you are in your business. It's finding somebody else that mirrors what you do with approximately the same amount of passion that it would be. It'll never be the same for you. So you have to manage your emotions in that. And listen, I'm almost 40 and I'm still managing my emotions. So
Roger's got a really good.
Roger's
this is a huge point. that if you're gonna correct somebody, you do it in private. If you're going to praise them, you do it in public. And I think you need to evaluate. There's another one there too. You've got to evaluate. That's a good one too. You never pass it to the customer. The customer needs to see professionalism all the time. And I'll give you a perfect example. I got an email virus less than a month ago, and it started sending out this email to everyone on my email list, and it literally said it was from me. It was the correct email address, everything. The only difference between this fake email and a real one was my signature at the bottom. It was missing some information. So there you go, only 40. So it went to a bunch of clients. This email went to clients, and I actually had one client that called me and said, "Hey, this got into our system and it really messed us up." And I said, "I'm very sorry. It hit our company too. There's nothing I can do about it at this point, but literally, if you get something from me and you're not expecting it, if you're not expecting an attachment from somebody, don't open it." But that's one of those things where it came through me. I didn't do anything, but it came through me, but I still had to own up to it. So I think that's kind of the point there, is just own up to everything and move on.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges that is easy to slide into is in that post-mortem. It's easy to get into this circle of discussion of why this, why that, you did this, they did that, the customer did this, they didn't, you end up in this like hurricane of this cyclone of not moving, right?
Yeah.
And at some point you have to be able to discipline yourself to go, all right, this is what happened. Right. But and understand why it happened, but then go, all right, what are we going to change in the future? And I think one of the biggest challenges is identifying what you need to change in the future and being humble enough to go, all right. And sometimes it's just a discipline to swallow your pride, to eat the dollars, eat whatever it is, and move forward. So have you found that to be a struggle of moving forward?
Yes and no. It all depends on the situation. Sometimes, and y'all know, having employees, it's an ever changing thing. You're always repeating yourself multiple times throughout what you're doing, because they don't think the way you think and you don't think the way they think. At the end of the day, it's always something stuck there. It's how you move past it. And my guys are pretty good. When we have discussions, we have discussions and we move on from there. We just get it done, lay it all out on the table, 15-minute conversation, done. Get whatever you got to say off and move, whether something happened the day before, the same day. I mean, and it's honestly not berating them to the point that they feel like they can't tell you anything. It's, hey, listen, shit happens. It is what it is. Keep it moving. You're still going to get paid. We're still going to get paid. We lost a little bit of money, but hey, it's only some money. You didn't lose a life. You didn't lose. You're not losing your job. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things that if you dwell on it, it's going to stay there and it's going to manifest into something you don't want it to manifest into.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is, we go through these different phases in a business, and sometimes stuff's moving really good, man. It's just flowing. And sometimes it's not. But as an owner of a business, and, I know Joel has started and helped people begin and succeed in several businesses. As an owner of a business, you kind of have this false expectation that it's going to be this upward thing. And it's more like this, it's backwards and 5 steps forward, 2 steps back. You fall to the ground, you shit your pants, you stand up, you do all that stuff. And I think that's the thing, is people don't expect that with a business, but as a business owner, that's what you have to deal with on a daily basis. I mean,
there's more low valleys than there are tops of the mountains every time. And it's how you climb that mountain again to get back to where you want to be at.
Yeah. So. Yep. One of the things that helped me the most, and I'm the numbers guy. I'm the one that reads every single line of every contract. I'm the one that goes through the numbers. And Joel just brought it up, is the P&L. People I don't think pay enough attention if they're doing it themselves. If they've passed off to an accountant or a bookkeeper, that's your job. Years and years ago when we started this, I mean, 13 or 14 out of 15 years ago, our accountant told us, he said, if you're not in your books every single day, you're doing something wrong. And I am literally in there looking at numbers and trends and stuff every single day. And I know Dustin Jackson and I, that he's the same way. He's a numbers guy. So you follow those numbers. You look at the trends. You know, the end of 2023, at the beginning of 2024, speaking of numbers, the Google search for ceramic coating dropped by 43%. At the same time, the Google search for PPF went up by 43%. So I noticed you're wearing an Apex hat. You still do ceramic coating, but that's one of those things you got to follow those trends. Whether people want to or not, you know, you can't continue to be stuck in your old ways. I mean, one of the big ones is like, you know, me being a little bit older than 40.
Joel
took over my number one in the star position.
What the heck are you talking about, dude? So anyway, you're number one always.
You're number one in our book, Joel. The thing about that is you have to get out of your own way. There's new ways to do things. There's new tools. There's new processes. There's new products. You can't ever just go, oh yeah, no. 15 years ago, I tried that RoadFS compound and it sucks.
We have a compound?
Yeah. So
maybe that's what you've been using on your hair.
The problem is that compound or that polish or that thing may have changed over time. I know with knowing Russ and Ed Buse and the entire Apex team, that thing has been, the things that Apex does has been tested over and over and over and over for years.
They've been baking
to get to the step. I know that when Joel had IGL, same sort of thing. You know, we talked about some IGL industrial coatings that had like 6 years of testing behind them. And two more examples of that. Companies that I do know of, and I know there's a lot of them out there, this is just my experience, P&S Detail Products and Leather Repair Company. When something happens with a product, instead of standing up and going, well, you must have done something wrong, right? We've all been there. Hey, I'm having a problem with this coating. Well, you must have done something wrong. Those two companies, Dave Phillips, the chemist
genius,
for P&S,
the mad
genius,
scientist.
When something goes wrong, he wants to know, and he evaluates it, and he marks it down, and he looks at it, and he says, why did it do that? He doesn't assume it's not his responsibility. He wants you to send the product back so he can test it. And I know that Richard Hutchings is the same way. When we were in Jacksonville, we were doing a vinyl repair, and there's a product that Richard has that is supposed to be, it is heat activated. You put an iron on it. I don't know if you remember this or not, but we heated it up. It wouldn't dry. We heated it up again. It wouldn't dry. We waited hours and hours and hours, heated it up. We came in the next day and it was still tacky. It's the humidity. But I can tell you right now, I've had more than one conversation with Paolo Essentia in Canada, who's with Leather Repair Company, and with Richard about the exact conditions. What was the humidity? What was the relative temperature? What was the dew point? All of that stuff so that they can improve that product. And I think that is, anybody that wants to improve their product, that's a company you want to be around. Because if they say this is it and it's never going to change, that you're going to run into problems.
Correct. And it's just like everything. PPF is now the new fad that's coming out where everybody wants to do it. Granted, I love doing it. We've been doing it for 4 years, but at the end of the day, it will always change. Just like ceramic coating. Ceramic coatings get better. Chemicals get better. Compounds get better. Pads get better. Everything gets better with time because of the real world testing. Apex will continue making the same product better and better and better over time, as with every other company, or they're not going to last. There's a reason why McDonald's is still here. Even though it's horrible for you, they're still here because they keep changing enough for people to continue doing it.
Yeah. And we know we're super lucky because we get to deal with all these product companies and we make friends and we deal with them. And honestly, the ones that we gravitate towards have that same mentality. You know, I've really enjoyed some of the trainings that we've gone to. Every single time I've gone with Apex, it's been amazing. I think I've had experience with 2 other PPFs, and I obviously I'm not going to tell you who those are because that's not fair to them. But
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Is a fantastic product. The properties of it, the healing properties of it, the just everything about it has just been fabulous. The same thing is true with other products like IGL. They're great products. Angel Wax, great products. RoadFS, great products. Flex, great products. It's just the innovation and everything. And the same is true with our industry, with software, right? We learn, our competitors put something out and we go, oh, that's a great idea, right? And so we learn from that. Years and years ago, a company came on board, one of our competitors, and somebody said, oh my God, how are you going to deal with that competitor coming on? And we're like, well, it'll help us improve. I mean, competition is a good thing. And I think that's something people need to realize is it's healthy.
People don't want to realize that competition is healthy. It's good. They want it to be them and them alone. And that it's in every industry. Everybody says the detailing industry sucks. It's so many egos. I've been in 3 other industries. There's an ego in every one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
it just happens to be that it's human nature to think you're the best. I never have a strive to be the best. I want to at least be number 3. Number 3, I'm good because then you look at number 1 and 2 first, then you come to me.
Right.
So
right.
I don't ever want to be number 1. I don't claim I'm the best in my area. Listen, I'm one of 4 in our area that do good work. Things like, you know what I'm saying? Like I make up numbers as I go through it. Just because I don't want to seem very egotistical like that. And I think that's a lot of what business is too, is taking your ego completely out of it and running it by the numbers alone.
Yeah. And I think people try to be too much like somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like, I can't be exactly like another company. It'll never happen. I can have exactly the same features. I can have exactly the same properties, but I won't be the same as another company because they've had a different journey. They've had a different experience. That's just how it works. So, Rod and Jody Morassam, when you see something new that is good, needed in the industry, you guys look at how much to make it better. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I'd actually like to talk about this, right? Because
we are awesome, right?
No.
Y'all are.
Sorry.
Then right, we never cut our competition, right?
No.
So look, and I like to address this. Anytime somebody comes to me at Mobile Tech Expo, SEMA, whatever, they ask me, hey, what do you think about X competitor, Y competitor, Z competitor? Every single time I tell them, I do not know.
Right.
And I recommend that you go and talk to them because they may have something in their software that fits your exact business need. Or you know what? You may like them better than me. That's okay. Right. And I always tell them, I'm like, look, I don't care if I would love to have your business, but I want you to find the CRM that is right for you. And one of the main reasons why we purchased Detail Bookie was because we saw that Detail Bookie did the single operator better than RoadFS did. Yeah. And so we said, you know what, why not bring them into the family? Because what we discovered over the past 3 years, especially we had a really good collaboration with Dustin. We were finding that when they were getting to a certain point in their business, they were starting to talk to us. So we're like, why not allow our team to support both sides of this market in a way that allows businesses to grow and evolve? And it's been an amazing journey. I mean, it really has been an amazing journey. Rod and I are drinking by the fire hose. And I was talking to Tommy Trenton this week, and he goes, he goes, how come nobody ever does a side-by-side comparison of CRMs? I go, it's impossible for us to do that, right? Because I don't know all the nuances of what they do, and I know exactly what we do. Now we can do that with Detail Bookie and RoadFS because they're part of the same family. And we actually are going to do that, right? Once we get our head even more around it and go, all right, Detail Bookie, this is the perfect scenario. In fact, I was having this conversation with somebody last night that is currently on RoadFS. I said, you know what? I think you might be better on Detail Bookie. So I want you to go do a trial and let's see if it's better. And then we'll just switch you out. And so we've really been proactive on how we're addressing the market, whether it's building the features in our software or bringing Detail Bookie into the family so that we can better serve the industry.
Yeah, and I will give you a couple of examples of that. Is one of those examples would be that I wouldn't do that one. that Mike's. Yeah, one of the examples that I see is that one time I got a call from Kyle Camus, and he was really desperate because he was having a problem with his CRM. It was not RoadFS or Detail Bookie. He's using a different software, and that's fine. He uses, this is it. I told Mike to talk to somebody else at MTE, and that's how you have to be. If I'm not fit for so-and-so client, then if you're not fit, then it's not a fit. I actually sent Mike to talk to other people. Kyle Camus uses Your Able, and that's totally fine. Kyle's a good friend of ours, and he was having a problem one day, and he couldn't. It wasn't that they didn't answer him. So this is not a knock on them. He couldn't find the answer. And so he called me and he goes, man, I'm just having a problem. And I see this. I helped him walk through it and helped him figure out how to use it. Not because I know how their software works, because I don't. We don't look at anybody else's software, but because I know how Kyle works and I wanted him to be successful. There's many people that don't use our software, and that's totally fine. I want you to use something first, and then I want you to use something that helps your business the most. If it is the best fit for your company, that's what you should use. I really do feel that way. And that is, I think that's everybody should be that way, right? If I've got a detail shop and you come to me and you bring in a, whatever, let's say you bring in a vintage race car, right? Well, that's going to be something good for me personally, right? I've worked on a lot of older cars. I've done restorations. That's a sweet spot. But if you bring me a Bentley, I've not worked on a lot of Bentleys. I might not be the best fit for that.
Have you even seen a Bentley?
Yes, I have. I have. I've seen a Bentley. I definitely have.
I'm joking.
Yeah. So that's really where I get it is you just, again, it's just like with employees and who's good at what. You have to do what you need to do to make sure that you're following the best practices and being a good person. You've all seen Miracle on 34th Street, the original version, where the dude sends them to another store. That's literally going to completely come back to every industry you're in. It's going to come back to you, right? If I want to do industrial coatings, but I don't have a shop big enough to bring in cement trucks, and Brian does, Brian might be a better fit for cement trucks. I might do small utility trailers.
And all that's doing is developing relationships for long term. It's not a short-term gain. It's a long-term. Instead of being transactional, you're actually building what you would consider a friendship that will end up in a transaction eventually.
Yeah.
Or hopefully.
Yes. Well, and even if it doesn't, that's okay, right?
Absolutely. We make friends. We make friends with everybody.
Yeah.
So we actually, that's our new model this year, 2025, is not to be transactional anymore. Actually develop client relationships and relationships outside of just work and being just friends with everybody, all the car clubs, everything like that, instead of just being transactional where it's, you give me some money, I did a service, thanks, bye, we'll see you in a year.
Yeah.
Being more,
you can be more successful doing that because then people actually care about you and your well-being and all of that stuff. So I think that doing that, so that is where people are going to benefit the most because you're not worried about the dollars. You know, we've had a couple of clients on here on RoadFS that literally have been, they haven't paid us. They've been on our software for more than a year. And it's because there is a situation where they need something. And this one client we have, we're just really good friends with them. And we want them to be successful. And so we're helping them out. It doesn't cost me any more to be that person than it does. It's going to cost me more to be transactional, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
Being
absolutely.
transactional, that person's going to go somewhere else. Eventually, that person's going to be with us and be with us for a long time.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to one point that we talked about, training and pivoting and bringing on new services. One of the things that I know you're really good about and very invested in is going out and trying to elevate the skills, right? And like I'm thinking about all of the training that Rod and I have gone through. If I was a detail business owner, right? I've gone to Juan Gonzalez's training. I've gone to the Detail Summits. I've gone to APEAK's training. I've gone to PNS. Dude, I've gone aviation training, boat training.
Yeah.
I've done everything, right? I can tell you right now that I would not incorporate PPF in my business unless I had someone like Rod that was either on my team or that I could collaborate and send business and cooperate with. And I think sometimes we as business owners think we need to do everything instead of going, you know what, I'm going to specialize in this area or these areas because they're in my wheelhouse. So I think it's good to go and get exposed and then make the judgment of whether or not that's right for your business. And it sounds like, especially with Joe Coat, you said, hey, I kind of like this. I kind of have a knack for this, but I'm going to start small and I'm going to grow it incrementally to the point that I can really do that.
Absolutely. And I have a different philosophy than most people. Most people will go to one training and a detail training and think that they got everything they needed. I've been to 6 just regular detailing, just intros to how to detail. And I've learned something at each different one. So trainings, you take 2 times a year and go to a training, go somewhere where you can go on like a mini vacation, go to the trainings and get that, because you're going to learn something new every time. Doesn't matter if you go back to the same one, you're going to miss something. You're going to forget something. You forget more than you learn at every training. That's just what it is.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because you guys, a lot of you have heard, and most of you have heard of Detailers of the Round Table, which is a group that Jody and I are proudly part of. I have gone to the RoadFS Training Center and been trained on the RoadFS system more than a half a dozen times. We're very lucky. We get to go there and do our software stuff, but at the same time, we go through that training. This year in January, we actually had a training at RoadFS, and it was just to train the trainers. And so those of us in the round table went there. There were 13 of us, and we actually got trained on that system so that we can now train. And it's one of those things. It's like if I went to, I've gone to like 4 or 5 APEAKS trainings. If I literally went through that training and learned more and more and more, and I say that because you can never learn enough, more and more and more and more, then I could probably train on how to do that. And I don't think a lot of people look at that as a beneficial, but if you can train somebody on something, you have really taken that on and mastered it. One of the most successful detailing companies, you guys probably know them, but the 2 brothers in Arizona, the Parker brothers, they are one of the most successful detailing companies I've ever met in my life. They have outside people come in to do certain things. Those 2 guys are extremely talented. They are really good at what they do, and that's how they got what they got. But there's certain things they go, we're not good at that. We have somebody else come in and do it. And they actually either outsource it, they partner, or they hire somebody else to do it. And that is, to me, is the best possible thing you can do. Like Mike's Marine Care or Rashid Baker that work on boats. I don't know if Mike knows how to paint, but let's pretend that he doesn't. If Mike doesn't know how to paint, call somebody else in to do it. Now, Rashid is an expert painter. He's awesome.
Yes.
But when we went, if you remember when we went to the training, Rashid like goes, "Hey Rod, you're painting these engine cowls," and I'm like, "You're like an expert at this." But he knows that I know how to paint, so he just trusted me to do it. And I think knowing when to pass off something to someone else, knowing when to trust somebody, that is a really great skill for detailers, but it's a great skill for business owners.
It's a great skill for life in general. Honestly, that's why we all have wives. I'm not good at making decisions. So
that's true. And that's definitely, if you want to plan a trip, do not ever let Brian plan the trip for you or book the hotel.
Never.
He's out. He's out.
Never. Amber is the only one that does it. And I just go, where are we going now?
Rod, you just need to read. Rod has a tendency, as soon as I pop up a comment, he's reading them under his breath. So let's read this one. Every instructor will teach you something different and bring something different to the table. We all have a roundtable discussion at SEMA Garage in the evening at the hotel, and I swear you'll learn more in that small session
than you will learn anywhere else. I promise, because you can't get real emotions and real responses from real successful people. Yes,
honestly, those are the best trainings when you get together and you're not in a public setting. You're actually at a house, or you go hang out at like a bar or something, and you just get the students, and even if I'm a student, you get to ask the instructors just real world things that you don't get inside the classroom. That's where most of the learning comes from, is those evenings. I mean, there's so many different ones.
It builds a lot of not just camaraderie, but it builds a bigger bond. I mean, I can tell you that, again, I always say this, and I will continue to say this. We are absolutely we're the luckiest people in the detailing industry, because we get to go to all of these trainings and we get to train side by side with some of the biggest names in the industry. And I really, really, really feel lucky to do that. If I had not been able to do that, I would not have the same respect and connection with a lot of these people. I've been at multiple trainings with Joel. I've been at multiple trainings with Mike Carlin and Dustin Jackson. I've got to go to multiple trainings with Rennie Doyle and Jason Rose and Ilya and Sarah. There's tons and tons and tons of these people. But the best times are always after the training. And you get to, I got to spend an evening with Jason Rose in a garage after 7 o'clock at night till about 1:30 in the morning, working on a car with Jason. And it's one of my fondest memories, because it was a different side of Jason. And it absolutely solidified my beliefs that Jason is as nice in person as he is in training. And I find that to be true with most people that we see, right? I mean, some of the greatest people I've ever met, I've met through a training. Rashid Baker I love Rashid, man. He's just, he's top-notch person. And Joel and everybody, that's the thing, is like, I mentioned it at the beginning of this, we were sitting there to training. I'd met you for like, I don't know, half a day. And you're like, hey, it's my birthday. Come to my birthday dinner with my mom and my grandma. And we had a great time. And it was fabulous.
Absolutely.
I got to meet your wife. I got to learn how bad you are at scheduling trips, and it was really good. And I think that is the thing, is that a lot of people wouldn't do that, wouldn't just open up their family and their after hours time. But I really appreciate that. I was just at a training with the Aviation Detailing Association in Houston, Texas. And one of the best things we did was go to a really long dinner afterwards. We had this huge table. We all sat there, we broke bread together, we laughed, we joked, we did all this stuff, and then that just solidifies things, right?
Yeah, and MTE this year was different. We didn't hang out a lot with people. We just kind of, everybody in our house at the Detailers of Roundtable House, we all just kind of did our own thing. But then we would come back home at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and everybody's out on the back porch still conversating. And that's when ideas, that MTE was great this year. It was not busy enough for me to be so tired that I couldn't do anything. But then we were able to sit outside and just have conversations with Kirk and Josh and Sarah, and just Mike Marine Care was there too. Just good conversations. Just everybody had good conversations and good knowledge passed back forth, ideas for this year, upcoming things like that. I think I'll do another aviation training too, because I forgot half the stuff just because it's so much information from them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would strongly recommend that. And, you know, if you can get out to the Shine Time ADA Expo in June, we're going to be out there. I'm really looking forward to it. Rod and I are spending a lot of time on the aviation detailing side to shore up our software to meet the unique demands of aviation, because it is a different animal.
It's different. Yeah.
You can't pull a plane over mid sky because you forgot to tighten the lug nuts on a wheel, right? And so decreasing liability and mitigating your situation, it's just really critical. So we spend a lot of time doing that. I think too, I kind of want to go back. You know, I was thinking about an experience I had with my dad. And I was about 10. And my dad was he retired from the Navy 20 years. I served 20 years under my dad. It literally was yes, sir, no, sir, stand at attention, sir, all that crap, right? And my dad lost his cool one night. I mean, me and my brothers were being kids, and dude, he exploded. And dude, I felt so bad. I felt so small. I felt horrible. And my dad stormed out of the house because he knew that he, at that moment, was not at his best. And he stepped away. And I remember my mom, you know, kind of calming the situation down, sent us off to brush our teeth. She's like, all right, kids, you go to bed. We'll take care of it in the morning. And I could not sleep. It was just itching on my little heart, my little brain. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And it's like, God, what did I do to our family? All those emotions, right? And I'm sitting there in my bed, and then all of a sudden the door creaks open, and my dad comes in, and he sits on the edge of my bed. And my dad patted my leg and said, son, I'm sorry. At that moment, I was not at my best, and I lost control, and I mishandled the situation. And I'm sorry, and I promise that I will do better to be the dad that you and your brothers deserve. I'm now almost 60 years old, and that experience still resonates in my heart and my mind and in my experience as a kid. And I think sometimes that happens in business, whether it's with an employee, whether it's with a customer, whether it's a competitor. And sometimes we have an opportunity to own how we're going to respond to that situation and try to move forward from this point in time to be better, right? Mm-hmm. And take that experience and lose. But the concern that I have is that a lot of us get so caught up in our pride and in our hurt feelings that we stay there and we get stuck in this moment instead of allowing ourselves and our families and our businesses to move forward in a positive direction, taking the lessons learned from that moment and doing better.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we've all been there. We've all exploded. We've all done something wrong. I've probably lost more employees just because of my pride and not wanting to be wrong. I could have been so much further along with growth, everything like that, if some of my cool would have stayed bottled up. And I mean, it's nature. You get mad, you tend to do that. In business, you got to take your emotions out of the business, but not be emotionless, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. It totally makes sense. Yeah.
But
and I think learning from that's the key.
Yeah, it's a daily learning over here, especially with me. I'm very, very passionate about things, and I'm very like wide open. I get louder as I get more excited. I get louder. And Amber's always like, you need to tone it down. You sound like you're yelling at people. I'm like, I'm not even yelling though. I'm just she's like, just down.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a thing with people. It's you get more passionate about it. I have the opposite experience of Jody in my family because we're like this cross between a German and English heritage, and it was always, always, always super loud, right? And so when Jody's experience with
That's
his
Judy's
dad,
family.
yeah, Judy's family that way too. It was the
That's
opposite.
my wife's
It was
family.
when my father was quiet. When my father would speak quiet to me, that's when I had the same things as Jody. And so I had to learn from that. And I actually have learned a lot from Jody about doing that, about squelching those emotions. I'm a highly emotional person, but I also understand, over the years, you have to bring that down. I have 3 daughters. I have one of them that is a lot like me. She's my oldest daughter, and she's always been a tomboy. I mean, she rode dirt bikes and horses and stuff. She would greet me at the door with a big punch on the arm. I mean, it was just that. My next daughter, absolutely not. I mean, she is like soft to the baby powder soft, and she's strong. She's not like a victim, but she does not like anything like that. And so I have to treat those two completely different. And then my third daughter is a mix of those two. And so I think you have to assess what you're doing. And I have an easier time. I'm always improving. I will be improving until the day I die, but I always have to learn how to improve on that. And like you said, you have to learn how to take it in and say, look, this was not my best day. And I apologize for that. And I've had to do that. I had to do that at MTE. Had to apologize to somebody and say, hey, this wasn't my best day. I'm not going to give you excuses. This is what I did, and I'm sorry. And I will do better. I will try to do better. And that's all we can do, right?
Every day you have to improve at least 1%. Something has to improve. But you're right. Managing different employees, different personalities is like managing your life too. You manage it's difficult. It really is. It's probably the most difficult thing in business is managing personalities. Business is easy. Doing detailing is easy. It's managing those personalities to get the detailing and the business off rolling and running correctly. Every once in a while, y'all deal with multiple businesses. Every once in a while, business goes off tracks. You got to put it back on there. And that's sitting down and assessing what you're doing and how to do it and where my SOPs are ever changing. My guys tell me all the time, well, yesterday it was this way. Well, we figured out a new way today. This is SOPs change on a daily basis, and it's how you manage the change is how it's going to progress forward.
I heard this one time, and this makes a lot of sense. Sometimes your SOPs are SOBs, and that's just how it goes. I mean,
that's awesome.
it's like you go into it and you're like, okay, what do we need to do? Son of a bitch. Okay,
that's awesome.
Keith DePlessis, I will cite my source on this one. Keith DePlessis. Sometimes you have to eat a shit sandwich. And you just have to take a shit sandwich a bite at a time. And that's,
as much
that's the way it goes. And I love that because it puts a lot of stuff in perspective. Sometimes you're going to get dirty. You're going to take a deep breath. You're going to go, okay, this is not going to be comfortable. But you get through those uncomfortable things and you're better for it. And I think that is absolutely business in a statement. You get through the difficult times and you're better for it the next time. If you don't learn from that mistake, then you are destined to fail. You got to learn from those mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
well, Dave, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that. I mean, that's just business. Every day, it's ever changing, and it will always change. And if it doesn't, you're stuck. Like you don't have a choice but to move forward. So,
well, man, we could obviously keep going, but I got an install here up in 5 minutes. But I mean, we want to thank you for giving us of your time, man. Guys, if you don't know Brian, please connect with him. He's on Facebook, Instagram, Brian Gitzen and his team, Summer Breeze Ceramic Coating. Any last thought or something that you'd like to share?
I mean, just keep going. The best thing I can tell you is just to keep going and to reach out to people that know it better than you do if you have any problems with anything. People are always willing to help, and it's just who you connect with that you vibe with better in getting to the point that you want to get to.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good point. So let's end it on that because that's a good note. And we will see you guys next week.
Next week,
same time. And then we'll see you in person in Jacksonville at the end of March.
And at PDP.
And at PDP in Ohio.
It's going to be
and
awesome.
all over the place. So
anyway, you have a great day, brother.